Information, data, content. We all want to know and see everything about anything instantly. But meeting that demand takes enormous computing power, and that's driving a big boom in the construction of new data centers, including here in Central Texas. We'll begin with a look at the projects in this area, based on reporting from the Austin Business Journal. 19 data center projects have emerged in the greater Austin area in recent years. They total at least $25 billion in capital investment, likely an undercount, and millions of square feet of office space. All of that creating thousands of jobs, primarily in construction. We'll tick off a list of some of the larger projects you should know about. In Temple, a $31 million project from Oppidan Investment Company is scheduled to be completed in October 2026. In Milam County, SB Energy Global is building a center as well. In Jarrell, Prominent Property Group announced an $850 million project. 3 projects are also coming to Round Rock from Switch Inc., Sabi Data Centers, and Highland Resources. This while Skybox Data Centers has projects in Hutto. Also in Hutto, a new data center from a company called Colivore is set to be built on a 30-acre site. Blueprint Projects was also recently approved to build in Taylor amid opposition from residents concerned about noise and other issues.
Noise is an issue, but not just noise. Low frequency hums and vibrations that come from data centers are known to travel long distances.
It's expected to consume millions of gallons of water annually, a deeply concerning figure for a region prone to drought.
Amazon has a project in Pflugerville. In Bastrop County, Edge Connects is building a $1.3 billion center. And there are 2 new data center projects in Caldwell County from Prime Data Centers and from a developer company named Tract that has proposed a massive build-out that will take 10 years to complete. And there are still even more projects further south. Joining us now is Austin Business Journal senior staff writer Justin Sayers, who has done in-depth reporting on the growth of data centers. Justin, thanks so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
So Justin, first, why are there so many data centers right now?
Yeah, that's a really multifaceted question, but the reason for the growth in the Austin area comes down to land availability, but also power availability. Historically, areas like Dallas are some of the biggest data center markets in the country, but as those markets get built up, developers are looking for other places, to find that space for data centers that will work based on utilities, land availability, costs, potential incentives, all the things like that. I will say data centers are kind of proliferating everywhere right now, just because there's such a demand for it, and every community in the country is grappling with these. But Austin, which is actually looped in with the San Antonio data center market, is one of the fastest growing data center markets in the country and in some cases the world at the moment.
And what's the economic impact of this burgeoning industry here in Texas? Essentially, these places are buildings full of servers or computers. Do they really create that many permanent jobs after construction is completed?
That's a really great question. The one thing that I've been stressing about these data centers is that every project is different. You can't really loop them all in together because they use different power sources or they create different amounts of jobs. In general, data centers are not big job creators, but there are some exceptions. Like the project that's headed to Caldwell County, that one could potentially create several hundred jobs. But for the most part, they don't create a lot of permanent jobs. They do create a lot of construction jobs. So really, once that's built out and done, with the construction, the number of people that are working in there day to day on a permanent basis are not, it's not a big number.
Are these projects getting state or local government incentives, specifically like tax breaks?
So it is really prevalent to see a lot of these projects go for incentives and get things on rebates for property taxes or, like job creation, they'll get a grant for that. I will say that's starting to slow down. A lot of the recent data center projects are starting to come in without those. But, I know that if developers had their choice, they would definitely, request those.
But the big concern here about data centers is in some cases they require Lots of electricity and water usage in addition to being expensive, and those two essential needs, they can be in short supply in Texas. What does your reporting show about that?
Again, just going back to that trope of every data center is different. It's important to look at each data center differently based on their water needs, their utility needs, what their power source is, and all that kind of thing. But the big thing to remember is power is always going to be the biggest use of these. But at the same time, some of these data centers are using like alternative sources of energy. Some data centers are even using nuclear energy. Some are putting their own on-site power generation, so they're not using stuff from the grid. Some are even doing that to the point of if we have another winter storm, they can actually take themselves off the grid and onto their own power source, and they can also provide back to the grid. So it's, again, evaluating that from a different standpoint of each data center. In terms of water use, a big thing for the reputable developers that they're really starting to do as the technology gets better is using circulated cooling. So basically, you fill the water source at the beginning of the opening of the data center, and then you never have to refill it again. That water that you put into it at the beginning is cycled throughout the life cycle of the data center. So, like that limits the daily water use, which essentially comes down to bathrooms or a kitchen or showers or something you might have. There's some that use natural gas, which I know there's been a lot of reporting nationwide about the dangers of that natural gas. But yeah, again, it really just depends on the project. And looking at each one and the impacts based on that is really what cities, counties, are considering now, rather than looping them all into one bubble.
It's hard to keep up with, it seems, just how many of these are in progress, and I'm sure we're likely to still see more data centers coming. Justin Sayers with the Austin Business Journal, thank you so much for helping us understand this important growing business sector.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, and happy to talk about data centers all day.
Thanks so much for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe and leave us a comment below to let us know your thoughts on this video. And don't forget, you can watch full episodes of Austin Insight for free in the PBS app.